and just double check that all the sound and everything's alright. We'll get Wilaris to talk. I'm always talking, so it's not a
Yeah,
problem
can you
at
hear
all.
me? Am I good? Am I at a good volume or?
I don't know. I guess we'll get Nick to check.
Test.
1, 2, 3.
If anybody is actually
What do you?
watching right now,
I can't hear you guys, so I'm just gonna be.
if anyone is watching right now, we're just gonna sound really stupid.
Alright, yeah.
There's one of those old family intrusions.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Almost run over Ebony.
That's his dog. For anybody who isn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got a cat called Miffy that might just invade here or there.
Might invade.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not.
Nah,
Hopefully not.
Audio levels are good.
All right, awesome.
Cool.
One thing which I probably should mention before we started streaming is that when we do play the clips, obviously don't talk during them, because that'll appear. All right. Are we ready to get going?
Yes.
Okay. So this. Oh wait, Nick, are you ready to record?
1 second, I'm doing.
1 second. All right, no worries, no worries. Oh, we got 6
see.
viewers. We are popping.
Alright. I'm good to go.
You're good to go? Alright, just say 1.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the OCS show. So as you guys probably noticed, this is going to be a bit different this week, as we are live streaming the show on Twitch. So this is kind of a test stream, which is why we, just put up the announcement now. So if everything goes well, hopefully we'll be live streaming the shows every week on Twitch. So hopefully this will be a bit better because you guys can interact with us. If a good question gets posted in chat, then Nick might bring that up, and we're not bringing up Twitch memes, but if there's a good question, we might bring that one up. So yeah, because we are on Twitch, that does mean that you guys can follow along to the Twitch if you want to, as well as donate to the channel, which you guys can see down in the description, as well as some links to the social media. VODs will still be going up on YouTube, and fingers crossed, you guys will also be able to see Twitch chat on the screen as well. So if somebody posts in Twitch chat, then it might pop up on the screen. So that should appear on the VODs too, for anybody who does care about Twitch chat. Apparently people like Twitch chat, Nick. I don't know why, but apparently that is something that people like. Anyways, so yeah, myself, Windows Monkey, usual co-host, Nick General, Coach of Abyss, and our guest for today is the Outlaws mid laner, Wilaris. So welcome to the show, Wilaris. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, yeah, it's really good having you on. I mean, I've known you as a player for a very long time. Like, you were in Open Ladder, the very first split that I was with Abyss.
Yes.
Abyss was still in Open Ladder. I remember you used to play Twisted Fate with that really cool skin.
Oh yeah, the old PAX TF, was that it?
Yeah, that was it. And I was like, damn, it's a cool skin. So yeah, doing really well this split, obviously. Outlaws finishing first during the regular split, which is really good. So moving on to playoffs. So for the show, for anybody who hasn't watched before, we're just going to go through each of the week's games one by one, starting off with Atletico versus Sin Academy, and then we'll move into predictions for the semi-finals. Do some MVPs for the week, predictions for the semi-finals, and I guess some generalized questions for the tournament as a whole. So some other things which we can do as well, now that we are on stream, is we can actually pull the pick bands up on screen for you guys too, as well as perhaps show some clips later on. So yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll get started on Atletico versus Sin Academy. So in terms of Atletico versus Sin Academy, this did seem like a reasonably one-sided game, I guess, towards the Atletico lineup. There's like, a couple of things going wrong. In the top side, Atletico, did a rotation up with the Corki, managed to take the tower, taking down the Baron after getting a catch onto Ever. And yeah, I guess the game, like, it felt over very, very quickly with very few kills happening. But I guess we'll start down at the beginning and just ask, what did you guys think of the pick ban for this game. I guess should we start off with you, Nick, and then move on to Wilaris?
Alright, so I guess the thing to note of this pick and ban is the amount of mid lane bans. So overall there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mid lane bans. And then Atletico priority picked the Corki in the second phase of phase 1. And then Sin did something that I think was wrong, to be honest, where they opted to pick up the Braum pick rather than picking and allowing Atletico to ban out mids in ban phase 2, which they did with the Syndra and Tilia, and which sort of forced Chaz onto this Echo pick. And I mean, Wilaris, you're a mid laner, but usually you want to be playing Echo, obviously into the Syndra, but more or less branching out into control mages that are escapeless. And Corki is not a control mage, nor is he escapeless, and it showed throughout the game that, I mean, Chaz probably had one of the worst performances of this OCS split, and I think that was in a large part due to the Echo pick. He didn't have pressure in the side lanes, and with an Echo without pressure in the side lanes is really not a very impactful champion. So that's, I guess, the big thing when it comes to this pick and ban.
I definitely agree. I mean, I can understand why he chose Echo, and it was the last AP champion that was available to him. But it obviously got messed up in the earlier rotations where they kind of messed up by even picking the Braum, so there was no more mid laners even available to them. But the thing about Atletico is they're a bit random in terms of you never kind of understand what they're going to pick. You've always got that fear factor of Yasuo Diana that they could just take, and I don't know why, but during second rotation, they were just fearful that Atletico was going to take Corki as an ADC, hence why the Yasuo and Vladimir were banned out afterwards. But that's the thing about Atletico; they're just a bit random, and you can never really understand what they've got coming. But I completely agree that the Echo was just unnecessary, especially because even if they do have the split push, Kled just wins against Echo at pretty much all stages of the split. So Echo has no place in that comp at all, because they can't even 1-3-1. It's just Echo is the primary split push, the primary magic damage, but he can't do magic damage in the fight, and he can't split push, so he just doesn't do anything besides maybe wave clear.
Sorry, you go.
I think the Sin Academy pick and ban would have definitely worked out if they had the priority top laner, like the Kled into Jarvan. Kled has the split push pressure. And if you look at Sin Academy's draft, if you don't look at Atletico, it's just a 1-3-1 comp. You send Caitlyn mid, you send Maokai to defend with a Braum, and then Jarvan and Echo are splitting. However, if you look at Atletico's side, Kled will outsplit push the Jarvan and probably and likely the Echo as well. And so that 1-3-1 doesn't work because you don't have pressure in the side lanes that you need. So I guess that's the thing from the Sin Academy draft that is a bit strange, and it was a bit when they picked the Corki, I'm not really sure why you're Bedoink plays Corki mid, so I'm not really sure why you're banning out Yasuo and Vladimir when he has played Corki mid in the past, and Gunkrab hasn't played Corki ADC in the past. It was a bit strange from Sin Academy, the draft, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if they
pretty much,
did have a good fear of the Corki going into the ADC, though, I can definitely kind of understand perhaps the Yasuo ban, because, I mean, Bedoink, it's his big champion, right? He's carried a lot of games in OCS over the past few seasons. But yeah, I can definitely perhaps see that they tunneled a little bit on it going into the into the bot lane. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Playing Echo into Corki is very poor. Corki, Echo obviously want to play into those immobile control mages, and Corki just, yeah, he was never really a threat in any of the fights from the Echo. So I guess my question is, do you guys think that Atletico pretty hard outdrafted Sin Academy in this game then? Before we discuss the match. I'll start with Wilaris.
I think so.
Oh, Nick then?
Oh.
Okay. I think that Atletico definitely outdrafted. The only thing that's a little bit of a question mark to me is the Maokai. Other than that, I think that Atletico got champions that they're comfortable on, which is a very big thing. Aladoric on the Thresh is definitely something that Atletico like, and it's just a comp that all of Atletico are comfortable playing, all their champions. And then Sin Academy's draft, the Echo for Chaz in that matchup isn't particularly good. Sin Academy, the Braum, you don't really want ever playing those sort of Braum. You want him to play the Thresh, the Rakan, those playmaking supports. and so it wasn't really a draft that, in my opinion, played to the way that Sin Academy like to play. Like all the games that they've played well is Eva is playing the playmaking, Chaz has got mid lane priority, and Squidgy, the Caitlyn pick from Sin Academy is good, but I think other than that, like the draft didn't really play to what I think Sin Academy does well.
And I think Atletico completely outdrafted them. There was no comparison at all. I agree that I have a lot of respect for Ever as well. I think that he had to tunnel onto Braum because Thresh just beats Rakan and Alistar as playmaking supports, so Braum was pretty much the last thing he had available. But yeah, I agree. He should definitely be, majority of the time, he should be placed on like a playmaking support.
All right then. I guess we can move on to discussing, I guess, the game as a whole. So, in terms of the game as a whole, like for me, it seemed to be that Sin Academy were winning on the bottom side. Like Ever and Squidgy seemed to be, getting stuff done on the bottom lane, like getting a CS lead, and I believe they picked up a 2v2 kill where Gunkrab died, but Ever died. Which I guess is more favorable for the side of Sin Academy. But it seemed like on the other side of the map, it was just losses for Sin Academy. The Corki roaming up, taking the top tower. I guess, is that to be expected based on the compositions? Was there anything that Sin Academy could have done? I'll start with Wilaris on this one.
Well, I think because Echo only like presses Q and wave. Like for the first until he gets Hextech Revolver, he just presses Q and continuously pushes. But by the time he bases and gets the Revolver, Corki gets his package. So even though Echo's now met his power spike, Corki has package and can just answer everything that Echo has for the remainder of the minute, and then can just continuously shove in after that. So Atletico naturally have the better the more presence after around 7 minutes. So yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much yeah.
I think the big thing is just the gank mid that happened where I think Dan was a bit unlucky to get an assist, not to get an assist, and when you're losing, like Kled will naturally shove in the Jarvan, your mid lane is naturally losing, and Malko's a slower paced jungler. I don't really know what Sin Academy's top side is supposed to do in that game. Like where it seemed like with the Echo falling behind, there's not much for Sin Academy's top side to really do in the top side of the map, and Atletico have a lot of options with, as Wilaris said, the package, the Kled, and the Gragas engages. So I think that when it came to the draft and I guess how the early levels played out with Chaz dying, it really made it difficult for Sin Academy to be able to pressure through the top side. And because of Atletico having a really strong top side and this more scaling Tristana, they just decided to sack bot lane for a little bit, get the top side ahead, and then later they play around bot side, which is what they did. So in related to that, I don't really think Sin Academy, especially from Chaz dying, there wasn't a whole lot for Sin Academy's top side to really do.
Right, okay. I mean, in terms of, I guess, looking at the other side of the map then for Sin Academy, so Sin Academy bot lane getting a lot of pressure down, getting that CS lead, I guess, do they just look to go hard on that bottom side because they're going to lose the top side of the map? Do they look to do, I guess, some lane swap things? How do they avoid losing that tower, really? Or I guess losing the pressure, or is it just unavoidable, I guess? Can they go hard on the bottom lane with the Caitlyn Braum? Nick, I guess I'll ask you this one first.
Yeah, well, they did. They had like Squidgy at his peak had like a 50 CS advantage. Like he was essentially keeping Sin afloat when it came to that gold lead with the amount of advantages he was able to get from that 2v2 lane. So I get the only real play that Sin Academy have is Bedoink when he doesn't have package, and then they send everyone down to bottom side, and then just 5-man dive bottom lane, and then they break open the map and start snowballing from there. However, something that Atletico do really well is they have really good vision control, like just generally, they have really good vision control. And so that play is very easily stopped from vision just in the river, because that is a very hard force play, and they don't have mid lane priority after the death. So it's a very do or die sort of play, and I don't really feel like Sin felt pressured into doing that sort of play, considering the way the game, they were just sort of slowly losing, and I don't think they... Like, Atletico closed out this game really well, and quite a few OCS teams would, like, sort of struggle when it comes to closing it out, and I think Atletico closed out games really well, and so maybe it was just a situation of Sin didn't recognize, like, actually, from the position that we're in right now, if Atletico play well, they're just going to close it out on us, so we need to do something. I don't think that really happened, and they were just like, oh, we'll would have scaled a bit longer, and then by the time that happened, Atletico had gained a lot of control on the map.
Right. Okay. Do you have any comments on that one, Wilaris? Or
Yeah, Atletico. I mean, like most of the OCS teams, and I'm going to say majority, like probably 5 or 6 teams, they're really bad at closing out. Atletico, I mean, I think it was two weeks ago, but they needed 3 or 4 Barons just to close out a game when they had the highest scaling comp as well. I think, I don't want to give up too much information about Atletico since we're going into them, but they do play very late game heavy because I don't want to say because they have a hard time closing out, but it is one of their big issues. And I mean, going into this game, it appeared that they had more pressure early. Their comp just made more sense, and then they were going to outscale anyway in terms of the frontline, backline team fighting, having double 80 carry and just really sturdy champion in Gragas in comparison. So yeah, and also Echo can't really approach or do anything in fights, and Caitlyn can't do as much damage or remotely even close to the amount of damage Tristana can output.
right. Okay. All right. I guess that's interesting. Yeah, it did seem that Atletico had a much better time closing. So it really felt over very fast for me. Like ever getting caught around Baron, and then it just transitioned into that Baron, and then they just started taking the test. And then I guess Sin Academy it seemed to me like they were feeling, I guess, quite pressured into taking team fights once the game was, I guess, very very far beyond. Not very far beyond, but I guess very very far into Atletico's favor. Yeah. I don't know. I guess, do you guys have any thoughts on that, or any, I guess, other things which you guys would want to talk about from this game?
I guess I want to have a discussion on the fact that Sin Academy went from 2nd to 5th after losing a single game.
Right.
I think that at least because OPL is becoming more and more important, like OPL spots, with the investment that Riot have made, I think that this shows that Sin going from 2nd to 5th in one game shows, I guess, the need for a better system. Because right now, it's a single round robin, and it's best of 1. And that's, in my opinion, the worst of both worlds. And I understand why the system is like that, because it's just a lot easier to run a league. In that way, you only have to stream one night a week. It's a short tournament system. It's only 7 weeks. And so it just makes it a lot easier. But I think with how important OPL is becoming, and people like a lot of majority of OPL players are full time, I think the B League needs to become more, I guess, professional in the system. So it's a bit tricky because I'm going to be honest, I don't really feel like, watching a CORVIDAE versus Noxide game, like a best of 3 for that, that sort of games, I don't really think anyone really wants to see. And it's like those sort of games are the reason why, in my opinion, that the system hasn't changed. But at least in this split, there's a lot of, I think the teams are quite closely matched. Like, I think the top 5 in particular are quite close, and I actually think that any of those top 5 teams could viably win the OCS split. And I think that, assuming that OCS becomes more and more competitive and the quality of the games keeps getting better, which they have been, and OPL becomes more important, that I really want to see a single round robin best of 2 format. Right. So stream it 2 times a week, make it a best of 2, so you've got 2 series going on tonight in a night, and then from there you can do a point system, because what that means is that there are more games in a week and more opportunities for better teams to distinguish themselves from weaker teams. Because with Sin finishing 5th, I'm not exactly sure if Sin are the 5th team, and if they just got unlucky with best of 1 performances. So I think that definitely in the future, in 2018, OCS should be looking towards changing their system, because it's been this way since they changed it in 2016, and I think it needs to be updated.
Right. Well, I guess ask Wilaris about that, because I mean, you obviously playing in this current system. I guess, how does it feel to play in this single round robin best of 1 system? Has that ever impacted you? Because I mean, you guys have finished first, and you guys have been pretty consistent. So do you think that there is room to show consistency at the?
I mean, I feel like Heads has been really lenient towards us. So, but I completely agree. I think they should remove Heads altogether and make it so at the very end, you have all the teams that have tied win-losses still play off against each other. Because during the whole split, during the the whole entire split, the 8 weeks or the 7 weeks of the games being played, a lot of teams improve, and it doesn't take that really into consideration. Like if we get lucky and we beat like the best team, and then they just get better and better and better, and they become the best team. Well, now we have heads, so it doesn't matter. It kind of just pushes that away. So I think they should remove heads altogether. And I understand that at the end it'd make a lot more tiebreakers, but in the end, like we all enjoy playing League, and that's what it's all about. And it shows it really like just more games are better overall, and it shows the adaptation because you spend your whole week adapting to one team, but now all of a sudden you have to verse different teams. And you don't get time, and then you really have to adapt. Instead of it like taking a week to adapt, you've only got like an hour to adapt, and that I feel that's a lot better.
Yeah.
The better teams end up succeeding, and that's what we want, right?
Yeah, I mean, like there are instances in OCS of like cheese games, and I mean a cheese. If you're going to cheese a team, and if you're going to cheese a team, you only need to cheese them once, and then from there, like the best of two adaptation can be to just ban out the cheese and see what else is happening. So then it's like this 1-1 split, which is a lot, I guess, a better indicator of the relative skill levels of the team. But if there's like, someone pulls out like for instance, a Master Yi Tarot comp from ages ago that Fornot played, a game after that you just ban Master Yi Tarot, and then I think Fornot, like, it just makes it a better league when that sort of system. And when it comes down into, into the playoff system and into the into the OPL later, a lot of these players haven't actually done best of series before, and so I think like for instance, Paprise, my top laner, he's only done one best of 3 series before, right? That was for the in an actual setting, not open ladder because I don't really count that, but in the OL to OCS qualifiers, that was the only real best of 3 experience he has, and he's coming into playoffs and he hasn't had that experience. And I think that the best of 2 adaptation, allowing coaches the ability to adapt from one game to the next, allowing teams to adapt from one game to the next, that's something that I think that will raise the overall skill level of the OCS coming into the playoffs. And I think that it should be something to look towards, making it a best of 2 scenario, and then 2 nights a week. And I think it's a bit of a challenge because, it doubles the amount of resources essentially that the stream needs to put in. But if OCS is going to become like a sister league to the OPL, and fall into line with the investment increases of the OPL, I think this is the change that needs to be made.
Yeah, I mean, none of the players really playing in best of series, unless they make the playoffs, and then that can be like 1 or 2 best of 3s a season. Yeah, I guess that is a really good point, because I mean everything in OPL is on a best of system, right? And even if you get into relegations for OCS, you're playing a best of. So having that between game adaptation is very good. Actually, that's a good question for you, Wilaris, because I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, you've been around for a very long time. Have you played a lot of best of series, or has it been a lot of best of ones?
We practice a lot of best ofs in scrims, but I mean I've played a lot of best of 3s because I've been around for a while now. I prefer it a lot more because I like to think that I'm good at adapting, and because a lot of the times I do pick and bans for the teams, and I feel like it's really easy to do, just like plan a whole week ahead for a team, because I mean that's what we've been doing every single week so far. And I just think it's really best of 3s just need to be done somehow, but I don't know from a business point of view if they're going to do it. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess hopefully it does happen. I mean, to be fair, Nick, we do only have to watch one Noxide versus CORVIDAE series per split. If the teams that are, because remember, Lynx was like an actual team up until a couple of weeks ago, right? They were a good team contesting. So there's only 2 teams that we actually have to watch. But like watching Atletico versus Sin, or like Outlaws versus the best of 3 this split, that would have been highlight of the season for me. So yeah, hopefully that does happen in the future. But I guess we can move on to the next topic. So the next topic is the Lynx versus Outlaws game. So we actually have a couple of clips which we can play for you guys before it begins. But before we do play those clips, we are just going to go through the pick ban for Lynx versus Outlaws. So I guess perhaps you'll have a bit more insight into this one. Wilaris, I guess, how do you think that the pick ban went for your team in this game?
I want to say we won. We won the pick ban. We know that they've got first pick, and they do have, apparently, what I was told, like, while doing pick ban, they have a Thresh one trick. So we got rid of Thresh. We haven't been practicing against LeBlanc much, so we banned LeBlanc. That was really simple thinking. But also, we've got the double pick, and we took that greatly into consideration. We also presumed that they might have banned Orianna, which, I mean, I expect it to be done, but it just doesn't for some reason. Anyway, they left open Orianna, and then we thought that they'd take Orianna away, because the middle also plays Orianna, and I don't play Talia very often, right? So his Orianna would outclass my Talia completely. So we thought maybe they'd first pick it, because we've done it in the past. And we see it as a viable option, because strictly it's OCS, and pick ban has a lesser of an impact, because everyone's champ pools are a lot smaller if you compare it to the OPL or the LCK or LCS or anything. Our pools are a lot smaller, so first picking Orianna and things like that are fine. So we thought they'd do that, and then we had answers into that, but they didn't. They just took away Sedge. So straight away to me, it just came down as they thought their Talia would outclass my Orianna, basically, which is fine. But overall, we then took Orianna. Did we take Orianna? I think we did. We took Orianna and Gragas in the first rotation. Yeah. And we basically thought they'd also take away Jax, or because, I mean, Curse's champ pool, what people believe is just Jax, Renekton, and Camille. So if they took Jax or Renekton, they'd have a pretty good answer into us. However, they didn't, and from there, we basically just knew that we outpick banned them. Because we got everything we wanted, like everything. They didn't take one thing away from us.
All right. Okay. What about you, Nick? What do you think about this pick ban? Would you agree with the assessment that Outlaws, I guess, won the pick ban?
I think it's a lot easier for Outlaws to win the pick and ban than it is for Lynx to win the pick and ban, in the sense of like Curse versus Jopan and Rain and K-pop versus Kingsley and Catpawns. I don't know who these players are. And there are a lot more champions that Curse will win the game on than Jopan won the game on, and Rain will win the game on than Kingsley will win the game on. And, all down the lineup, I think Outlaws just has stronger players. So, like, when it comes to drafting, when you're that much better than your opponent, it's a lot easier to win. But I think the thing that's funny about your guys' drafts is that how you haven't really shown anything throughout the entire season. You just keep doing the same thing. And if I was Atletico, I'd be a bit, honestly, because if you watch our games, we've shown a fair bit. If you watch Legacy's games, they've shown a fair bit. You watch Atletico's games, they've shown a fair bit. But you guys just played pretty much the same two champions the entire split, and you guys aren't just sitting behind and only playing OCS. You guys are scrimming, so it's a bit of a big advantage for you guys coming into playoffs. How you just play the same two champions, and then obviously practicing other champions, and then you rip them out in playoffs. So I think it's very questionable for Lynx to just not at least see what else you guys have to offer and allowing you guys just to play the exact comp that you guys want to play. So I think that whole thing from Lynx is a bit questionable. Like, if someone is playing the same one champion over and over around, you just ban it or pick it away and then see what else is going to happen. Because I think Lynx had with the new rosters additions, probably had a 0.5% chance of winning, something ridiculously small. So just at least throw a curveball in there with banning out some champions, picking some champions, and going for the cheese win, which is very incentivized in a best of one scenario. But I mean, Lynx just picked a very standard comp into another very standard comp, and the better team will just win that game pretty much all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when we can translate it into the actual game, but I mean, you guys had a bit of a shaky early game around the Talia. However, you had pretty much both had the same team comps. However, you guys are just a better team and better players. And when it came into the team fights and the skirmishes, that sort of stuff, once it became into a later stages, you just whitewashed them, because Lynx's win conditions are very similar to your win conditions when it comes to just 5v5 brute force fighting, and then you guys are going to win that game pretty much all the time because you're just a better team. So I mean, it's a bit questionable from Lynx, to be honest. But I mean, a very new roster, there isn't really a whole lot from draft that Lynx can do to help them in this game, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think the option, I mean, they basically should have either banned Orianna, which would have led to us banning Talia, so we wouldn't have seen either of those champs, or just first pick it away, and then I guess I would have had to done something radical, right? But outside of that, yeah.
I mean, what did you think of his Talia? Because I mean, you mentioned perhaps it was something which you guys want to ban, but I mean, it didn't. Even though he did get advantages, he seemed to like he tried to 1v1 you. I remember around by the blue buff area between blue and mid, and it just
Yeah, a few times.
it just went like his mechanics on the game just didn't seem to be like. I guess would you agree with that or?
Most of the time, like in middle, he is a good Talia. I'm not going to say he's a bad Talia from that one game, but he kind of fought like on Oriana's like fighting conditions. So he fought on my terms. Like Oriana is going to always win 100-0, like just slugfest, right? He doesn't have an ulti that even does damage, so he needs to like kind of break me to about 60%, maybe 70. I'd say 60 or 50 even because I have heal, and then he could try and do that all in. But like he'd try it at full HP on the both of us, which he was never ever going to win. I don't know if those are nerves or maybe overconfidence because of the gold lead he had, but he definitely tried to do it. So that was questionable. Could be straight stage fight or something. I don't know.
Right. Okay. So you think that he played a lot worse on stage than he normally does?
Yes, and a lot of teams, from what I've gathered, like to like even in scrims they like play their one tricks, which just boggles me because it's like you're not actually learning. Even if you beat us in scrims like 100% of the time, we're not going to let you have that champion ever because that's all you play and we know it, and like it's common knowledge to everyone, right?
Right. Okay. Okay. I guess we'll move on to some discussion for the actual game. So there is going to be a couple of clips which we're going to bring up. So just kind of going over the narrative of the game and just showing a few clips, and then I guess we'll get into the discussion. So Twitch chat will not be on screen during the clips because I accidentally forgot to set that up. So yeah, I guess we'll show those now.
Happen, this is the world we live in. Speaking of the world we live in.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with the world we live in. This is League of Legends. Jopan actually hit off Skull and Scam Diggity just returned game. Flash forward, bopped and overkilled. As there we go, the Glacial is going to get locked down. That's right, Scam Diggity knocked back, knocked left, right, and center. And the left, right, good night to follow up as Curse runs for his life. It's a double kill, and Lynx just get there quicker.
It just seems to be a night of upsets, and Outlaws were actually there quicker.
Now 4, it's going down faster and faster.
Curse is nowhere nearby.
Wilaris has the shockwave available, uses it, gets 2 members, one-more combo again. Outlaws have already done so much damage at the start of this fight, and they're cleaning house. But on the back, there's a Kled, there's a Skull, he gets bursted down, Curse is back in. This guy has joined the roster to cause so much havoc. A double kill, finish it off, and a triple kill as the ace goes to Outlaws.
Everything there was because Wilaris managed to find the
yeah, so I guess I just wanted those ships to, I guess, show the narrative of the game, which, Lynx managed to get some advantages in the early game with the Talia roaming around the map, but then once it got to that team fighting phase, it didn't particularly seem to be going very well for them. Like, even in that last team fight, like, Kingsley, like, jumping in when he had, like, 0 health, I guess maybe he accidentally hit the key? Sure. I really...
Maybe you thought he'd crit? I don't know.
What, like crit, like, it was like
a lot.
crit, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's like very, very unusual stuff. And I guess, yeah, maybe stage fright, maybe that lack of experience. So, yeah, I guess, Nick's already kind of explained a little bit about what he thought was happening in the game. I guess, when that top tower did go down, when they rotated that Talia up, was there ever any doubt in your mind, or were you constantly feeling confident?
So my view on like pretty much every OCS team, or in even the meta in general right now, like I think Nick said earlier in the in an earlier episode, a lot of what happens early game is just kind of like a little bit of a wild card. It is really distinguished by how the jungler plays, but from our game, we haven't had Curse for very long, so skirmishes happening with him in the first 7 minutes are kind of like, I won't lie, difficult to communicate. But after a certain point, even though they had a big lead against us, we just knew that we'd out-macro them, because as soon as the transition between this, like the first tower onwards to the mid game, I think that's when better teams start to show their prowess. Like we're the better team because we know what to do. While Noxide and CORVIDAE, they even get leads against the best teams in OCS, but they just don't do anything with it because they might not have a shot call or the shot call is not confident, but they don't do anything with that lead. So with my mind, how I was thinking, I was like, even though they have a huge lead, we're just going to win because we know what we're going to do as soon as we do a trade or anything whatsoever.
Right. Okay. I guess is that the same feeling you get with Abyss? Oh wait, no, Abyss is a shit team. So Nah, just kidding. I guess this is the feeling you get with this, like, even if you do fall behind, it's never really particularly worrying for you watching games. I guess unless you're versing the best teams.
I'm very worried the entire game because I'm not actually in it. Like from a player perspective, when I was really calm during games, unless it was like a level 3 fight and I was like 1v1ing their jungler, I was really calm the entire game. But from a coaching perspective, nah, fuck. It's very nerve-wracking nearly the entire time, especially when it's a game that is really important to win. It's not like that at all. It's very much because you don't have control, right? Like Wilaris in the game can shot call and hit shockwaves and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, I'm a fantastic player. I can carry my team macro-wise and micro-wise. However, once I chuck him into the game with the picks and bans, and after that, it's up to them to execute on it. So it's a lot more nerve-wracking in that sense.
Especially in best of ones.
And in best of ones. Just like, all right, guys, I've got this great idea. We're going to ban out these... Oh, crap. Don't worry about it. We'll see the review, I guess. But I don't know. I wanted to ask you about Curse. How has he, I guess... Because he just sort of came out of nowhere to me, to be honest. Like, I was like looking at solo queue and I was like, and I was like, who the hell is this OLW Curse guy? And I was like, looking at his champion pool, and I was like, is this like Pabu or something like that? This is some mongoloid carry top laner. And then he popped up in OCS. He's playing Renekton.
It's so funny that you say that.
OCS? It's not Pabu.
It's
guys.
actually
it's not Pabu.
It's so funny you say that because like I remember the first interaction I ever had with him. I was just solo queuing and he just entered really hard. And I looked at his win rate. I'm like, he's doing quite well. And then I actually called him Pabu. I actually just thought it was him. And I thought it was a Smurf. And then I wasn't abusing him, but I was just like, what are you doing? You're trolling me. You're like taking my LP hostage. But anyway, down the track, I had opinions of him. People thought he was good. Some people thought he was bad, actually. And then I was asked by my friend PVA to sub a scrim, and it was an open ladder team. And then I subbed. It had Songhoon, one of the Korean players as well, and him. And originally, I believe they were like a two-man package, where if I want the Curse, I have to take Songhoon. And the Curse performed really, really well. So we were interested straight away. But then I found that out. I'm like, oh, maybe I have to kick Scam. No, I'm not going to kick Scam. So basically, I kind of just deleted that in my mind after the scrims. And then the next day, Curse approached me. He's like, do you know a team like that's looking for a top laner in his English, like his level of English? I tried like breaking that down. I eventually got to it. And then I told him that we were looking for a top laner, but we didn't even approach or even ask because he was kind of a package deal. But yeah, it ended up not being a package deal. We got the Curse. He played really well in every scrim set, and we were really impressed, basically. That's how we met. I don't think he remembers me asking back those days when I was like, what are you doing? You're trolling and taking my LP hostage. Don't think he remembers that situation. So thank God for that.
Maybe you just didn't speak enough English. So you were like being really abusive to him, like, you hold him LP hostage, but he's just like, oh, this guy must really like me. He messages me a lot. So
yeah.
maybe that's what happened. No, he does seem like a really decent pickup. One of the top tier, I guess, OCS top laners, and I guess a big upgrade on Flick, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I
don't want to badmouth Flick too much, but he did have really good communication. But I do think Curse having a lot more time to invest into the game in general, because that could be the thing. Like Flick barely is even able to play because of his commitments in real life, while Curse doesn't have any outside of League, so he is really good at the game since he's investing all his time into the game, right? Even though he didn't have the coaching staff, he clearly had Korean experience, and he told me his rank in Korea, and I was pretty impressed. So he's done really well himself.
Diamond 5. Nah. All right. I mean, actually, to be fair, all the OS players who have been going over to Korea and a bit have been making Challenger, right? Like a lot of them. Okay, I guess something which I do want to ask is kind of looking back on the other side at Lynx. And I'll probably throw this one to Nick first. Is in terms of, I guess, Lynx as an organization, because they have been through like 300 players a split. They didn't even have the spot for week 1, so they forfeited. They forfeited to CORVIDAE week 1. Does it just seem like really poor organizational management from the side of Lynx, or I guess, yeah? What do you think? Just not able to hold those rosters together?
It was like an open secret that Regicide were going to be taking Kedu as soon as he turned 17. Like, It was a similar thing with Shenchuan, where just like they were gonna put him into OPL, and it was just a matter of time. So them picking up Kedu and Shenchuan, I was like, my impression was like they're gonna be really annoying in regular season because they've actually got a good roster with Kedu, Shenchuan, a middle / Nana, Sully, and Sora, but they're not really going to be an issue in playoffs because they're just going to be losing their bot lane, and that's going to be it. You won't be able to pick up like a bot lane that is as good as that bot lane. I mean, that showed they picked up like PVA and Screams, and then Kingsley and Catthorns, and there's just a difference in skill between those players. And Kedu and Shenchuan is quite large, and so I think it was like a bit of short time thinking, where they was like, oh, we'll just get a few wins with Kedu and Shenchuan, and then whatever. Or they actually didn't know that Regicide were going to be picking them up as soon as Kedu turned 17. And I think Shenchuan also had age restrictions as well. I'm not too sure. So it may be a bit short-sighted thinking from Lynx, but beyond Sully leaving and Sora, I think Sully definitely left. I think Sora left. Nana went to New Zealand or something like that. He'd left. It just seemed like they got unlucky or something with all their players, but you can just like ask the players, like, are you going to be staying here with the entire split? I'm not really sure what happened, but I mean, if you're going through like so many players and they're not being banned, they're just like leaving or they're moving over to other teams, it does show a little bit of poor organizational skills in related to keeping your roster together.
All right, I guess what do you think of the various variations of the Lynx roster? Like Sully, Nano's playing mid, right? I guess what are your thoughts?
So I know the Lynx owner pretty well because he was my coach last split. He was OLW Wolves, and he ended up buying a position, and that turned into Lynx. So for the first week, hence why Scam was playing top and Rain was playing mid. What actually happened was we weren't even planning to play OCS, and we were planning to even just go through open ladder and just like get a position and have our own org, right? But then what happened was because I was friends with the Outlaws management, I gave them a roster which included at the time Nana, who was the top laner again?
Sora.
Basically gave him that roster, right? I gave it to Outlaws, but then Young Cat, I'm just going to give you a bit of drama. Young Cat and Vibes got into a fight with the top laner and mid laner. Like, it was a pretty like cutthroat fight. And then a day before OCS, like two of them were going to leave. So it was either going to be like no more Young Cat, no more Vibes, or this and that. And I wasn't even able to play. So what happened was they ended up leaving, and then we had Scam in the top lane and Rain in the mid lane playing Draven. That was like pretty wacky. I wasn't even there for that. I just heard about it and like laughed really hard. But what I was told from Lynx's perspective is they were told really late that they even bought the spot, or they were the successful buyers for the OCS spot. That's why their first roster mix-up was really bad, hence the forfeit. I don't know too much details after that. I just know that I just know about the drama since I was somewhat involved. And then after the performance from Rain and Scam in their weird little roles, they wanted to purchase us back as a roster because we ended up leaving due to wanting to kind of be a three-man package. Like, Scamman and I wanted to kind of be on a team together, and hence why we wanted to go through open ladder to get like the perfect roster by the end of it and just push through OCS and make OPL. Like, that was our goal. But I mean, guess we kind of did it a little faster than we were hoping, than we were initially planning. But I don't think Lynx are that bad, especially because I do have respect for the owner from his coaching days. He did a really good job, and like, I mean, I'm friends with him as well, so this could all be pretty biased thinking. So,
right. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I guess just from the outside perspective, without that, I guess, inside knowledge, it kind of does look a little bit poor on Lynx. But I guess getting that, I guess, context does help out a bit. In terms of, what you just mentioned, where you said you wanted to go through the open ladder to qualify for the OCS, I guess wanting to become owners yourselves, was, I guess, ownership a goal for you, or was it more just...
Yeah, we're thinking like long term as well. Like, we wanted control in long term because we didn't, like, in all the orgs we played in, we don't know where the money's going. Like, everything just is a little shady. Like, we just don't know what's going on, right? And we didn't like that. We wanted to... We obviously approached a few OCS orgs, but none of them wanted all three of us at the same time. Outlaws did, but we initially thought, like, we are more valuable than, like, this. We know that we can place higher, especially because last split we came second, right? And this is with a weaker roster than we have now. I don't want to, like, point fingers, but it was drastically weaker than it is now. So we valued ourselves pretty high. So we did get offers as well from open ladder teams saying like, oh, we'll give you this much to play for us. But we kind of thought of ourselves as we're a free like ride to OCS. So we're worth more than an OCS spot because we'd also play for you afterwards. That's basically how we approached ourselves in terms of value. And of course, I'm pretty sure OCS, I'm not sure, but I think that OCS spots are selling for more and more as each split goes by, right? Because the OPL, because of franchising in OPL, everything's just going up in value. Like OC is kind of getting bigger. So we were thinking long-term and short-term, and also it would have given us 6 months of open ladder to kind of like relax. We didn't have to scrim that hard. We were pretty confident we just like breeze through. Ideally, like if we're going to come first place in OCS, we're probably going to come first place in open ladder. That's the way we were going to view it.
Well, you'd hope so. You'd hope that open ladder isn't a higher quality than OCS. Anyways, I kind of got a bit off topic, but I guess
my bad.
Before we move on to the next one, oh no, that's okay. Is there anything else which you guys want to mention from the Lynx versus Outlaws game, or should I move on to the next one?
That's about it for me.
Nick, all right.
Move on.
Got the nod. All right. Sorry guys, that will be the only one with clips on it for today. I just wanted to test it out with that game, but next week hopefully have some clips for the entirety of the games, assuming you guys like them. I don't know if anybody wants to comment or have feedback on what you guys thought of the clips and having the pick bands up. Then yeah, but I guess we'll move on to discussing Noxide versus Abyss. So we'll discuss the pick ban as a whole as first, as usual, and then we'll go into, I guess, some of the things from the game. So, Nick, I guess I'll start this one off with you, same way that I started off with Wilaris for the last one. How do you think that this pick ban went for you? I guess, do you think you, quote unquote, won the pick ban? Yeah.
I know we got a comp that we have played before, and we had relatively high amount of success with, and we knew how to play win conditions, at least in scrims. However, it didn't really pay off in the game where we were just like, I think it was like 3 kills in the space of 4 minutes that we gave up, like something retardedly stupid like that because of just bad plays all around. But yeah, in relating to the draft, yeah, I mean we got the champions that we wanted, and we pretty much picked ourselves a comp that versus Noxide shouldn't really be able to lose a whole lot of the games because of how strong our late game is and how we have a stronger 1-4. So a lot of the win conditions, like if you're playing against a weaker team, like a significantly weaker team, the only real way they beat you is like smashing you in the early game, or you like mess up closing and they've got this really strong late game team comp, and then they outscale you and you can't really win because you can't win team fights anymore. And so we had pretty good lane matchups, like we had very safe lane matchups, and then we have like obviously extremely strong scaling with Kog'Maw, Cassiopeia. And so that was the real idea with the comp, because we're coming into this game as the heavy favorites. We needed to win the game in order to secure our spot in playoffs. So we just picked a comp that was quite safe. People were comfortable on the champions, and at least in scrims we knew how to play the win conditions.
All right, and I guess I'll throw this one over to Wilaris. I guess what did you think of this pick ban?
I was like 95% sure no matter the pick ban, Abyss would just win, right? Because I mean it's a pretty one-sided matchup. Like every laner wins on Abyss. Abyss have better. I can't really say Noxide have bad management, but I just assume Abyss have better management, better coaching staff, better pretty much everything. So in the pick ban, it looks like Abyss just has the biggest steamroll comp in terms of just running you down, even if you're like 10 kills ahead. Like Kog'Maw and Cassio are just going to walk over any front line, right? So you don't like, even though they have sturdy front line, like Gragas and Warwick are pretty sturdy in terms of like sheer defensive stats. It's just gonna you're just gonna walk over them. Like it takes like 4 seconds to blow down a Warwick with Cassio Kog'Maw. It's just there's nothing. Especially if you got the Taric ult that lasts for like an eternity. So you're pretty much even if they lost early game, I don't think Noxide. You have to lose pretty hard early game, and Abyss lost by quite a bit early, but it wasn't enough. And I don't think Noxide have a shot caller or enough expertise to basically push the advantage that they did get at all.
Right, yeah. I guess, I mean, that's the same way it sort of felt for me in terms of looking at this pick ban. Like, the Taric with the Kog'Maw Cassiopeia, it just seemed like Abyss was confident in team fighting kind of no matter what. And I guess confident in the fact that NX wouldn't really be able to close out the game. I guess, in terms of Noxide's comp on the other side, though, it did seem like they had a lot of decent conditions for the early game. Like having that Talia into the Cassiopeia, obviously very easy to shove in that matchup. And then just looking to, push down on the bottom lane, get dives down there or get dives up on the top side of the map. It did seem like they had, I guess, solid win conditions. The Warwick was a little bit unusual, in my opinion. Like, for their comp, it did seem like they wanted to push things down really hard early, right? And I guess the Warwick just... Yeah, I guess just didn't really seem to fit into it for me. Like, I felt like if they were going to win the game, it was going to be, I guess, steamrolling Abyss for the fact that they picked such a scaling composition. So I didn't really mind the pick ban from Noxide, but yeah, I can definitely see why Abyss would have gone for such a pick ban against Noxide. They are just a significantly better team, and that's not my Abyss bias, guys. Come on, it's second versus seventh. So yeah, I guess we'll move on to discussing the game now. So you guys have already given away a little bit about it, but Noxide did build a relatively decent advantage in the early game. Like like Nick said, there was like 3 kills in like in the first 4 minutes of the game from Noxide, and some people getting very low on Abyss. And then they were getting some towers down with the Tristana tower trades, and then I believe Abyss just sort of like when Noxide was recalling, right? Didn't you guys sneak a Baron, Nick? Am I right with that?
Yeah, we just took a Baron, and then the game closed out like 7 minutes beforehand, because when that comp gets ahead, there's not really much you can do about it, to be honest, especially because Noxide don't match the late game scaling. So you get the Baron, you get the priority, and then Noxide don't really have a win condition to that game. So,
right.
I don't know. When it came to like the early game, it was very just like greed. It was just greed, to be honest. Like greed all around, trying to win too much too early, and that's why I'm saying like at least in scrims when you had to play the comp, because I mean this comp is definitely very fine just playing it slow, but we didn't play it slow. We just greeded too much, and we got punished for it. So props to Noxide for punishing it, but definitely when it came to the game, I think it was just a story of I guess similar to the Outlaws game, a little bit of little mistakes from the better team, and then the better team's team comp sort of kicks into gear with the team fights, and then we won a few team fights, we got the Baron, and then we won a few more team fights, and then we entered the game. That's pretty much the story of the game.
Yeah, I mean in terms of Abyss though, it did really seem like you guys did sneak into that Baron. I guess Wilaris, if you did watch this game. In terms of Noxide, if Noxide, because obviously getting the Baron when you're behind is generally kind of hard, right? But do you think that if Noxide haven't given away this Baron, do you think there was a world in which they won this game, or do you think it just doesn't
I don't think so. I think the bottom 4 teams of OCS, and then that includes most of Open Ladder, but they just don't know how to play to their like win condition in terms of champ select, right? But at the same time, I think they only Abyss only lost early because they were just like trying to like steamroll, just win the game. They're like, get it over and done with. I don't want to be in it, right? You just want to win the game and just like, and from that they just got exploited a little bit. But even though that happened, I mean, same thing happened with us. We kind of just like shoving our advantage down your throat and just like, oh, we're better players. Let's just win and get it over and done with. I feel like that's what happened with Abyss. They got the Baron. I think that's just poor map awareness by Noxide in terms of Baron was up, you've got a Cassiopeia, and they just didn't respect that. Because if I ever versus a Cassio, I just like make sure Baron's watered by 19 minutes. I'm like, that's not going to happen. Don't do this to me. But apparently they didn't do that. And the Warwick pick, also to reiterate what you said earlier, it just seems like a comfort pick. I don't know. I don't think Warwick was the right pick either. And it just seemed like, I know Boast plays a lot of Warwick, so that was his answer. It was like he was like comfortable with it. I don't think there was much more logic behind that pick itself. But overall, Abyss would have just won. Like no matter the situation, I think, against Noxide.
All right. Okay. I guess same thing for you, Nick. Do you think that Noxide could have taken you guys down if they hadn't given away that Baron?
If I was not related to Abyss, I'd say nah. They've got Frey, Swathe. There's no way they Mike Akuden. There's no way they win that game. But from me, because it's my team, it's like, yeah, they could definitely beat us. Like I've seen us like play like complete potatoes before, and I've seen us play actually well. So I know this full spectrum of our team, and I know that if we can definitely play bad enough where Noxide beats us, and thankfully it wasn't. Thankfully it wasn't that game.
I like all the Abyss players are like in the Twitch chat. You just see like whenever you say something bad about Abyss, they're like, thanks, Nick. Thanks for the confidence in us, Nick. That's great. All right, okay. I mean, in terms of this one for me, yeah, I guess it was for me. It was very poor from Abyss. I've a lot higher expectations from this team, and I guess seeing them lose, I think you guys lost like 4 towers, and Sombra on the Tristana managing to pick up the double tower on the top lane. I guess it was just a little bit disappointing, in that sense. But yeah, I was never really too scared that you guys were gonna lose the game. In terms of this game then, is there anything else left to go over? I guess a relatively simple one. Same with the Lynx versus Outlaws one. Is there anything else you guys want to go over for this game before we move on to the next one?
Next one, probably.
Next one?
Me.
Alright, so we've got Legacy versus CORVIDAE. So another, I guess, 3rd versus 8th place team. So, in terms of this one, we've got the pick ban. Who should I start off with? I did Nick last time, so I'll start off with you, Wilaris. Who do you think came out of pick ban better?
I'm sorry, one moment. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm a big advocate of loving Orianna, so if they got Orianna, I'm pretty big fan. Orianna Jarvan automatically looks like it's a better teamfight comp. In terms of late game, LeBlanc I feel doesn't do pretty much anything if you play it properly. If you're both teams are playing perfectly, LeBlanc just doesn't really have anything. I feel like LeBlanc is just that champion that you kind of auto win from 1 minute to like 14, depending on against most matchups, because every time you verse LeBlanc, you just have to be fearful that they could just W and E you because the jungler's near. Like, you have to just have so much respect, so you have to drop so many minions. But in terms of the pick ban, I'm pretty confident that Legacy just like overtook them completely. They only had a better split pusher on CORVIDAE's side, which I guess if you have LeBlanc and you have Camille, you can reliably win through split push, because the LeBlanc can TP or come from a weird angle and flank and then start shoving down really hard. And Tristana at a long range can pressure Baron, or at least pressure you off Baron is what I mean. And Janna can disengage. So that was CORVIDAE's only real prowess. And the Zac, in my opinion, feels a little bit more... I feel like Sedge would have been better. Yeah, Sedge, I just feel is going to be better on CORVIDAE's side, but they opted for Zac instead. And that shows that they were going to put a lot of pressure on the mid laner, because it's LeBlanc Zac. It kind of meets that window of opportunity.
At least definitely from the draft, CORVIDAE had win conditions like, 1-3-1, LeBlanc getting ahead, but I mean, I think we say this like every single time Legacy play, but it's like Harry, like the 1v1 matchup, he was like smashing Taka in a 1v1 matchup that he shouldn't be able to play 1v1 like that, but regardless, he was smashing him. And then Barbib came in, killed Taka at level 4 or 5, something like that. And from that point, like Harry's ahead against like a pretty weak team. LeBlanc's win condition of snowballing is pretty much over. And then from there, Artifer's Solar killed Raven in the top lane as well. So the 1-3-1 sort of got nullified by at least 12 minutes in. And something else is like Legacy's 5-man force is really strong with that comp. Like Rakan is really strong at forcing, Jarvan, Orianna really good at forcing, Gragas again. I imagine that if CORVIDAE actually got in a position where their 1-3-1 was pressuring, I think Legacy would have just dove mid and then just taken it in a hib, because CORVIDAE's 3 wouldn't have been good enough to stop that engage. Even through like the Janna, like the engage from Legacy is really, really intense in that game, and CORVIDAE's 1-3-1, unless they get really far ahead, I just don't think it's going to happen. So at least rating from the draft, like they've got different win conditions. Like Legacy's is about team fighting, forcing fights. CORVIDAE's about 1-3-1ing, and it just comes down to execution at that point. And Legacy's solo laners, definitely outperformed CORVIDAE's solo laners, and that's the part that really needs to happen for CORVIDAE's comp to work. And their solo laners got shut down, and their comp doesn't function when the solo laners are behind.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at this pick ban, Legacy, it was actually really nice seeing their level of respect, which Legacy did show to CORVIDAE. Like everybody always makes the joke that Soul Strikes is drafting in the 6th dimension, but drafting for Legacy in this one is really simple, right? Like they took away the Syndra, picked up the Orianna, that's Taka's like best champion gone, and like showing the respect and getting rid of, I guess, the champions which Ozzer is prioritized. Like Ozzer's played a lot of Twitch. I mean, I believe they first picked Twitch at some point in this season. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think of the Ozzer 64 Twitch, but I mean, clearly Ozza likes to play it. You know, he's having if he's gonna lose every game he's played in the OCS, at least he's having fun. But Legacy took that one away, and I guess it's good to see them showing that respect. And I guess it's a lot easier for Legacy to win that pick ban, and I guess Legacy just in my opinion, just I guess quote unquote won the pick ban. Poor Ozza. Anyways, in terms of the game itself, I guess we see Autofins playing this Gragas, which is, I guess, very uncharacteristic for him. And we see tilting on the Rakam, which I don't think I've ever seen before. But it seemed to go really well for them in this game, right? Like, for me, this seemed like a very one-sided affair towards the Legacy lineup. Would you, I guess, agree with that, Wilaris?
I don't. Yeah, like you said, we don't really see Autofins play tanks much at all. He usually is that carry style player, like similar to Raven, Paprise, even the Curse. They play like a lot of split pushes. So right now it's really highlighting players that are good at transitioning from tank to split push, maybe eventually back to tank and then back to split push. But right now it's tank, right? And they've obviously been practicing it a lot in scrims. If he's willing and comfortable enough to bring it on stage, I don't know. I mean, for me at least, I have to practice a lot of games before I'm like comfortable enough to cost us a win or like cost us a loss or like even win us a game. But similar to tilting, I'd say tilting plays a lot. Like, I mean, he originally started off as a Sona one trick, right? So naturally, I kind of link him into like a Sona, Nami, maybe Lulu kind of play style, and he's grown a lot as a player from those one trick days, and he's clearly been practicing it, but it is out of the ordinary. Like, I wouldn't go into a game against Legacy and expect to see a tank top laner or even like an initiating support that isn't Nami, Sona, etc. Lulu.
Right. Okay.
So hypothetically, if you were to play Legacy Genesis in the semi-finals, completely hypothetically, you wouldn't recommend making our bans Rakan, Gragas.
Gragas maybe because Babip is like he plays things, but Rakan I wouldn't see. We wouldn't have banned it, but this game kind of opens our eyes. Oh, they have been practicing this and that, right? I know you always have to take it into consideration, but when you sit, but like if you spend your whole split just like not seeing it, you kind of come to the conclusion, oh, maybe they don't play it. Similar to how everyone thinks I only play Orianna. I guess like people just come to that conclusion, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess it was nice to see Autofins, and to be honest, Autofins has had a pretty awful split. Like, he has fed a lot this split. So I guess this was probably one of his best performances, if not his best performance in this entire split. So potentially something which Legacy might look towards in the future. I don't know. Maybe for your sake, Nick, you hope they go back to the split pushes and Autofins just continues feeding for semis. But I guess we'll have to see. I do have another question which I want to ask you, Wilaris. Because I believe Nick mentioned Harry before as a mid laner, saying he's very good. Who is, I guess, the mid laner which you fear the most versing in the OCS? I guess maybe like the top 3 mids other than you in the OCS?
I mean, I don't want to be biased and say I'm one of the top 3, but I think Frey, Harry are the only 2 threats I see in mind. Frey is a lot more of a like he's obviously got experience, so you can always be sure that he's not going to be stage fright or scared or anything. He's always going to play the champion how he thinks it should be played, and he isn't necessarily going to be easy to gank. And I know that's Abyss, so Swathe, puts a lot of attention as well onto Frey. So they kind of do work really well hand in hand. But Frey in general, he generally doesn't get losses either in terms of laning. He doesn't go behind. Harry, he's really aggro. Like, whenever I lane against him, I just expect to lose half my health level 1 if I'm not careful, right? Or maybe all of it if I'm really sluggish or bad. But Harry's kind of a lot more assertive, and he will punish you, but that's also why he's been having such a bad split. People have noticed that, and people are, like, the junglers are putting a lot of attention into Harry doing that. And Harry is also a really heavy tilter, from what I know, because I used to be on a team with him back in the 4-0 days, except he was an ADC at the time. But those 2 are the ones I'm most scared of, because Harry I do respect greatly in terms of, he's going to like maybe kill me if he's got the winning matchup, and I'm just not going to see that damage coming, because like no one is that aggressive besides like Fantix in like solo queue. But Frey I respect in terms of he's going to match, if not play better than me in the late game team fights. If Harry's ahead, he'll push his lead if he's not ganked, while Frey will match me, if not play better. I wouldn't say he's going to play worse. He's got more experience, and I respect that experience. But he will match my team fighting prowess, which I think, besides Frey, I'm the best team fighting player or mid laner in the OCS.
Right. Okay. I guess Nick. I guess a similar question for you. I guess in terms of mid laners, who do you think top 3 mid laners in the OCS are? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely Frey, Harry, and Wilaris. I don't know. I think he summed it up pretty well. I mean, I'm the coach, so I have a pretty good idea of like teams and stuff like that. But when it comes to individual players, I can say general things like Harry's aggressive because I mean he plays like a psycho pretty much all the time. And Wilaris is a little bit more passive, team fighting control, and I think Frey is somewhere in the middle. So obviously Frey is my man, so I will have to give him, you know, the number one. But I mean, I definitely when it comes to Harry and Wilaris, it's definitely a match of different play styles. Where Wilaris, Harry's a psycho, and Wilaris isn't as much of a psycho and is more about team fighting. So if we were to lose and Outlaws were to win, it would be an interesting mid lane matchup because it'd be 2 different styles going at it.
Mm-hmm.
I see. All right. Well, I guess in terms of that, I guess we can look to end up that segment. Maybe move on to some MVPs. Now, normally we just do one MVP for the week. I did kind of want to do an MVP for each role, but I realized that I haven't prepped either of you for this. Do you think we could do it? Do you think we could do an MVP for each role? I think we should.
I could try.
I think we should just like remove you from it, though, Wilaris, because I feel
Yeah,
like
I'd ideally like to be removed from this decision.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit awkward where you're like MVP for mid lane. Yeah, I'd probably give it to myself. You know, I'm a god. So I guess
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Took the words right out of your mouth. Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we could start off with the top laners. I guess maybe I don't know, Nick. Would you guys have anybody in particular?
Can we do let's do it support up because I think support's the easiest. I want to say that my support of this split, we'll just call them players of the split. I think my support for the split is definitely Eva, or I always just call him Yuzuki. In the games that Sin won, he was very much instrumental on the Thresh and in Outlaws the Rakan. A lot of the wins in conjunction with Squidgy, but a lot of the picks and stuff like that were off the back of Eva making really strong picks and having really strong performances. Like overall, like their Sin Academy's bottom lane was probably the strongest in the 2v2. And Yuzuki, outside of laning phase, is making like a lot of picks, and I think he was definitely supportive of split individually.
Oh, Nick, you just mentioned 2 players there. You mentioned Yuzuki and Eva. You're not telling me that's the same person. You're not telling me Yuzuki changed his name. What the hell, dude? This is crazy. This whole show is ruined. All right, I guess Wilaris, what do you think? I guess if you want to start support as well.
I'd have to say Eva as well. I also assume he's a shot caller, and I have a lot of respect for fellow shot callers, and he does a really good job. Against our bot lane, I always hear complaints about how good he's going to be and how much pressure he puts on Rain. So I know that and he's really, really versatile. Like he'll play anything. But because if you look at Sin's roster, none of them are very proactive in comparison to Eva, and you can really rely on him to make you that game-winning play, while a lot of supports in the OCS aren't going to do that. I think Eva is like a step above every other support in the OCS. Probably nearing top 5 in OPL even. I have like a lot of respect for Yuzuki.
Okay, again, 2 players for me there. Yeah, I mean, I do have to agree. Like, you look at the other supports, which I guess are coming close to the top, and you got like Kuden, you've got like I guess like Tilting is on Legacy, Aladoric. I guess all of them just seem to be like a tier below Eva. I feel like it would be a really close ranking and a really tough ranking if Eva didn't exist. As they chat, Mike Lee was robbed. Kuden was robbed. Nah, sorry, Eva. I think Eva performed better than Kuden, which is, you know, I guess saying a lot considering he finished on a 5th place team. Okay, so I guess moving on to AD carry. So I guess this one's a little bit more of a close role. There's like Guncrab, there's like Rain, there's like I guess Squidgy as well, potentially in contention. I don't know. Does anybody actually have an AD carry MVP sorted, or?
Yeah, I'd have to go Guncrab for me. So I think the reason why I'm not putting it to be with Squidgy is that he's laning with Eva. He's laning with Eva, and I just like Eva's a very lane dominant player, and Squidgy's main strength in this split in the OCS was his laning phase, and because he was ahead, his late game team fighting was also quite good. And I think a lot of that came down to laning with Ever. So that's the reason why I'm not going to put Squidgy as the ADC of the split. And so the reason why I'm putting Gunkrab is that definitely in the early points in the split, Gunkrab was the only shining light for Atletico, and he had like supports changing out, like an ADC. If you're playing with a different support, it can be very disruptive to your laning phase and just in general. And it seemed like Gunkrab wasn't phased by it, and his individual performance was very strong. If you check his Twitter, he's often topping the damage charts for the games that he's playing in, which is obviously a very strong metric for an ADC. And I think it just like overall, he wasn't the best laning phase player, but the amount of times he just put out a lot of damage. He got a lot of kills. I think the damage in particular, like he's been picked a lot of Tristana, Caitlyn, hyper carries, and he has been putting in the damage necessary to put in those picks. And especially in the early on weeks of the split, I think a lot of Atletico's wins were due to Gunkrab carrying them.
Okay.
So for me, I mean, if I wanted to be biased, and what my heart is telling me is I want to say Rain, right? Because I know the circumstances he's playing ADC are actually really awkward, but I won't disclose too much. But besides that, I'd say also Gunkrab, because I know that, and without trying to disclose too much of what I think that Atletico are going to play, I think they play traditionally a lot around Bedoink, while Gunkrab doesn't get that much jungle support, and he is, like you said, always doing well on the damage shots, and that is a really big factor. While he's not getting that much jungle support, but he's still pulling out the numbers that are required to win the game. So I'd say Gunkrab or Rain, but if I can only give it to one, I don't know. Not too sure on that.
All right. I feel like we didn't get an answer, but
It's your brain or your heart, Wilaris. It's your brain or your heart.
I'm gonna go. I think Rain is the better ADC than Gunkrab.
All right.
Well, I guess we'll see. We'll find out on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't know whether, like, in terms of Rain, I feel like K-pop has been performing kind of poorly. Whereas I feel like Aladoric has been, I guess, performing quite well. Like, he's been playing, like, the Blitzcrank and I guess, doing some cool stuff. Whereas I feel like K-pop's been performing poorly. So I feel like Rain is kind of in a more difficult situation, I guess, from my perspective. Yeah, to be honest, in terms of AD carry, the split for me, I'd have to go with Gunkrab, especially because of that, like, early on in the split. Like, I feel like on Outlaws, a lot of other players on their team are performing really well, which is why it's hard to say, like, that they're, like, the player of the split or the player of their team, because a lot of the time there are, like, multiple lanes simultaneously doing well. So I guess if the whole team is doing well, it can sometimes be kind of hard to shine in games. Whereas I feel like Gunkrab has had to have games where it's like, it gets to like 40-50 minutes and it's like, okay, Gunkrab, you carry in or wherever, you know? Like earlier on in the split, Atletico obviously, as the split has gone later and later on, I feel like there's been a lot more carry threats from other roles, but I guess that's why I'd have to give it to Gunkrab. In terms of mid lane, I guess I'll go first on this one then. I would probably have to go with I'd have to go with Harry. Again, the same reasoning is that, like, Frey has other teammates, whereas I feel like some games Harry just, like, his top laner isn't there, or you know, like, there's other players on the team that are just performing really poorly, and Harry has to go huge to win those games, and like, a lot of the time he does, you know? Like, there was that Syndra game, which we talked about last week, and Harry just went massive. He's like 12, 13 kills up, and, you know, he just helped his team get to that late game and win. And I guess that's just one example. I guess we'll do Wilaris next. Do you have a mid laner which you can choose? Or?
I mean, like I said, Harry and Frey are both, in my opinion, the only two that I see as threats, right? But Frey is really good at understanding that he doesn't have to be the one to carry. Like, he can passively play. He can play passive if he needs to and let his team carry if he's having a bad game or whatever. He doesn't, like, int harder than required, while Harry might int harder than required. But at the same time, if you look at Legacy's roster, I don't want to be that guy, but it almost feels like they are a two-man, Babip, Harry. Everyone else is relevant, and they're doing their part, but they're not as reliable as those two. Harry might underperform, but he's doing it to try and get his team to win, because he knows he's pretty much a win condition in himself with how skilled he is mechanically, right? But if I had to give it to those two, I'd say it's a lot harder to be a carry than to sit back. So I think Harry would get MVP of mid, judging by circumstances. But if he was put on a better team, it might actually be quite different, and Frey might outshine. So I think Harry.
Nick?
I have to put. I'm gonna say Frey. If you look at I think the amount of control that Frey has in the mid lane, in all of the games that he's playing in, like he's nearly always has mid priority. He's never, very rarely does he ever die to ganks. I know Frey, like he's very valuable for our team when it comes to communication, that sort of stuff. But I think the big thing about Frey is his consistency. He's always consistently putting out a high amount of damage. He's consistently a strong, like he's consistently the best mid lane laner. Like he's not going to be dying, but he's always going to have pressure. His champion pool is very strong, even though he hasn't shown it. His champion pool is very wide. And I think it's mainly the thing of when I look at a mid laner, a really important part of mid laner is the ability to rotate first. And Frey is nearly always the person to rotate first, and he's not giving up farm to do that. And then in the team fights, I mean, they're like in the game against Genesis, Frey hit like 4 extremely strong shockwaves. That pretty much carried the game through. So there is definitely a case for Harry, because he's more, sometimes he's a 10, and other times he's lower. But I think Frey is consistently that 9, and I think if you just add it up, Frey has been the best mid laner.
Are you saying you did the maths, Nick?
I
Are you saying that you've done the maths?
if I yeah, sure.
All right, there we go, guys. Mathematically speaking, Frey is the best mid from the Abyss coach there. So no, I do think you make good points. I really think it is hard, and it could go both ways. So I can definitely see the argument going both ways.
Oh, I've got if you guys haven't been checking the Twitch chat, it's been 89% memes, but KO, I'm not quite sure who K are. I don't know. He said, I don't like that. Saying that, he has a better team is easier to look good on, but really better players end up with better teammates. So it's not like, Frey is worse because he has better teammates. Frey has better teammates because he is better. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's an Abyss player that typed that, Nick.
I think I'd recognize one of my own players.
Okay. I guess,
well, what do you
wanna
think
take
about
this
the
one
argument of
Or shall I take this one?
You can start.
Alright, well, I do have to somewhat agree, but I'm gonna disagree on why I chose Harry, because I feel like if you're going to be the MVP, the big player, you have to take your team over the line, right? You have to be the one that's pushing your team into winning the game. And as a player standing out, a lot of the time that is taking big risks in order to, I guess get your team those advantages, right? I mean, if you're playing all 5 players are the best players in your roles and you have the best team, I guess like Direwolves last split, nobody's really shining, and I guess nobody's really winning the game for your team because everybody's winning the game for your team, I guess. So that's kind of my point on it. I can definitely see why the argument would go the other way. Oh, we didn't bring Wilaris up for MVPs because
feels bad.
Hey,
Nah, I
didn't we
understand.
say at the start that he's
we couldn't be like, oh, Wilaris, what do you think of yourself as a mid laner?
Yeah, don't raise my ego. I'm going into a big game in a few days.
Oh, right, okay, do we need to bring you down?
Yes, please.
We'll hype up Bedoink. Oh, we didn't even
Yes.
mention Bedoink. Feels bad. Wait, Bedoink on Yasuo
I don't think
versus
Bedoink has had the
Bedoink.
results to back up. I think he's had too many off games.
I have to agree
He's
with
a
that.
bit. I feel like he's definitely good, and he is a player who can carry, but he is getting a lot of jungle support, and is being inconsistent. I feel like that. That being said, like he's inconsistent and getting jungle support at the same time. That makes me like just question if he would be MVP.
Yeah, no, I gotta agree. I think Bedoink has been very inconsistent. I think he's a good player, and I mean it's consistently shown he's a good player. He's been in playoffs every single split that he's been in OCS, but I can definitely see how there are some flaws, which often like you think of Bedoink in the OCS, and he's often like you're like 3rd or 4th mid laner, and I think that's kind of where I slot him in the split too. I guess do you want to answer that thing before about Harry versus Frey and whether or not?
Like you summed it up pretty well. I feel like it is a lot harder to be that one to make the risks and go out of your comfort zone or even out of position to try and make that winning play. And Heiru does that 99% of the games, right? And that's why sometimes he does underperform, because he's trying to get that big lead early so then he can push the team like over the line for the rest of the game. And that basically either makes or breaks the game, right? And before Bebip came along, it was a lot harder because he didn't have a jungler that he communicated well with, presumably, or a jungler that was worse than BABIP in general, and he still was a threat. He's always going to be a threat in lane to me. Like, he's always really good. I don't want to say he's better than me in lane, but he's different to me in lane, and he does advance a lot harder than I would. While Frey, he'll hit me when he can for like if he thinks it's free, and he doesn't disrespect, so he's very respectable. But he is given a better team to work with. So I think Abyss's general lineup is stronger than Legacy's general lineup, and Legacy is more so BABIP and Hayri trying to get them across the line. So it is, with how well they're doing and how they even made playoffs with such bad circumstances early. That's why I think Hayri's like MVP, because given the worst hand possible, he still won the game majority, like over and over again.
Right. Okay. I guess we'll move on to the junglers. So, jungle is actually a pretty hard role. I guess there's like Swathe, Scam, Barbip, I guess would be another one. I guess, yeah, there's like Dan Prellis. I don't know who I'd choose. I feel like jungler's kind of been a weakish role in OCS this split. Does anybody have their MVP for jungle?
I mean, I think the only two junglers that I see as threats would probably be Scam and Swathe. That's bias in both halves because I used to be Swaith's teammate and Scam is my current teammate. I haven't seen much of BABIP. He obviously has improved a lot. If he has, if all the rumors were true and he's getting like all this one-on-ones with the Legacy OPL roster, so this would be pretty hard. But without being biased, I can't even do it without being biased. This is too hard. Can you go first, Nick? I'll think about my.
Yeah, I genuinely think that it's Swathe. Scam has had also very strong games, but I just think that, especially in the games that Abyss wins, Swathe has a lot of control, and Swathe is an Swathe is an extremely vocal player, and in the OCS games, like he is often the ones to make the necessary calls to win. And to make sure we're on the right we're on the right macro part, and just him as a jungler, like he's often pressuring the enemy jungler, getting vision control in, taking their camps, and also getting people ahead when they need to. He's a jungler that actually understands what side of the map he needs to play to and what his pathing needs to be to execute on the win conditions. I think that's really something that sets him apart from all the other junglers except Scam. Like Barbib's pathing is very much around mid lane, and that sort of happens regardless of the comps, but Swaith's pathing is very much around what his composition is related to. So I think that Swathe, obviously biased, but I think that he has actually been the best jungler, but definitely Scam Diggity's results and his play and his stats have definitely shown that he is very much on par with Swathe. But I think what gives it to me over the edge, which is something that none of you guys can really prove, is just how valuable Swathe is when it comes to his communication.
Yep, and I guess for me, also flaming Scam that's in the room. I'm gonna have to choose Swathe because I understand that he's very, very vocal, and he's a very valuable shot caller to have on your team. The only issue I have with Swathe, in terms of gameplay, is I feel like he is really intelligent, right? Which isn't the issue, but he might think so far ahead, and he's like, he'll think of something, and then he's like, "There's no way this guy's dumb enough to do this," and then the guy ends up doing it, and by doing it, outsmarts Swathe. I feel like that would happen here and there. Like Swathe just is like he's thinking so far ahead that it's not working out. That'd be the only issue for Swathe. But that's why I think Scam is better suited for. He's doing really well in OCS, and he's performed, in my opinion, better in OCS. But I think Swathe has exceeded, and if he were to be in OPL, his way of thinking would be very, very effective. So I'd have to say Swathe, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense.
So you're saying that Swathe is in another dimension, is what? Effectively,
yeah, but like the dimension would work in OPL better than it would work in OCS.
All right.
Okay, but it's working really well here too.
That's fair enough. I'd have to say those two have been the two best junglers as well. So, yeah, I guess sorry, somebody just posted something funny in Twitch chat. It was like, who's the fifth best jungler? And now I'm feeling sad. I was hyping up Prellis before the split, you know, so it's making me sad. Yeah, I'd have to agree with Swathe for pretty much similar reasons. Okay, I guess moving on to the final role, top lane. Top lane's kind of hard. I feel like all of the top laners on the top teams have really had some int series, like Paprise into Tekka, Autofins in pretty much every game apart from Gragas. It's like
Curse has played what, 3 or 4?
Five-
It's like 3 games or something.
He's played 2. I mean,
Yeah.
he's almost done his third. So
yeah, like 5 to 8. Yeah, that was actually what I was going to mention. Curse's not really played any games. 5 to 8 in the latter half of the season played quite well, but in the early half of the season, not so much. It's very, I don't know. This one's really hard because I feel like everyone kind of sucked. So at certain points, some people have had good games, but I feel like there's been a lot of sucking in the top lane. I don't know. What do you think, Nick? Or what do you think, Wilaris? I feel like you had something to say then.
I mean, Curse has played 2 games and they've both been good. So if we were to go off like that guy who's like in bronze or something, he's like, oh, got a 100% win rate, played 2 games, then like I guess Curse would take my MVP for top. But if we're going logically speaking, where he's played a lot of games, I'd say 5 to 8 because he is a very reliable player. His pool does consist of some carries. Like I know he plays Jace, and that's naturally a threat since Jace is in meta right now. And there are lots of ways to play Jace. Like you can tank shred with Bork, or you can, and he can play Jace full stop. He can meet a lot of situations with that carry champion that we do respect a lot. And he, even though he had off games, he hasn't had as many off games as the other top laners. So I guess he probably would take my MVP for top lane.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be Curse if he'd played enough games, but I just don't know if I could give it to Curse when he's only has he played 2 games or 3 games?
I think it's 2. I mean, I can ask him, but I think he's only played.
No, I think I'll give mine to 5 to 8 with I guess an honorary mention to Curse as well for pretty much the same reasons. Nick?
I have to give mine to Pap. Paprise.
Here we go.
I think the thing
Here's
that-
the Abyss coach. You see,
I think
you're
that-
like, I don't want to be biased, Wilaris, but Nick is embracing the
Yep.
bias. He's just
Yep.
bringing it in, you know.
I think the thing about 5 to 8 is that he's the game that he played against Pap especially, like Pap just like murdered him, to be honest. And I think that is like a pretty big indicator of skill difference. Like Pap 5 to 8 is without a doubt a smarter player than Paprise.
Oh god.
He's without like he's a smarter player, but top laners in this split, none of them are particularly smart, to be honest. Like teleport players have been pretty crap the entirety of the OCS. Like our defense is just like all the top laners apart from 5 to 8 are like they're all just like split. They're just like always in their lane, like split pushing. But I think Paprise is. I have to put a caveat because I haven't seen enough of Curse, but Paprise is like our defense is also a strong player in his lane, but he has had so many off games this split that you can't give it to him. But Paprise is sort of similar, where he's quite lane dominant and he plays good split pushes. However, he actually knows when to hold back, and he knows when he can't pressure and when he just can't pressure, else he'll die. Where our defense hasn't quite done that, as it shows with the amount of times he's died. So in relation to what I think with 5 to 8 is that Paprise has been more instrumental to the wins that Abyss has had than 5 to 8 has been to the wins that Atletico has had. I think a big part of Atletico's wins has been Gun Crab, and a big part of Abyss's wins have actually been through Paprise and through Frey, obviously, and through his pressure in the 1v1. Like Renekton is pretty much a champion is perma-banned against him now, and that just shows like if he's drawing drawing a lot of target bans, it's because he's a force, and the way that he plays the game when it comes to his lane dominance is something that a lot of teams respect. So I do have to give it to Pap, but overall, like the level of play in top laners has been pretty disappointing because it seems that none of the top laners are on par with the OPL top laners when it comes to especially their teleports. Overall, it's been a bit of a weaker thing for top lane in general this split.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I can definitely agree with that. All right. So I guess that covers up the MVPs for the player of the split for each role, I guess. So I guess we'll move on to some semi-final matchup predictions. So usually what we do for the predictions for the week is we just go around, give our predictions for the best of 3 semis. I don't want to hear any 3-0s, all right? And And then you guys can just say a little piece if there's anything which you guys want to talk about for the games, for your predictions. So, I guess the first semi-final is, I believe, Outlaws versus Atletico. Am I right in that? Or...
Yes.
Yep. So, I feel like maybe we'll get Wilaris out the way with, because I feel like you're gonna have a bit more confidence in your team. He's not gonna be like, oh yeah, Atletico tour. We are fucked, guys. We are completely fucked. So I guess we'll start with you.
So, I mean, I feel like we will win both the games. I feel like if we were to compare all 8 teams, right? Atletico are a good team, and like you said, they play a lot around Gun Crab, but their champions are so like you always have to take in consideration the random champions they can like pull out, right? Like those cheese champions. But since it is a best of 3, I feel like if they were to win any game against us, it would be the first, and then after that we'd win. We just take the rest of the games. But outside of that, I think we'll 2-0, or is it best of 5? I think it's best of 3, right?
Best of 3.
I don't even know.
Is best of 5 for finals.
Yeah.
If it's the same as last split.
Yeah. So we're pretty confident that they will only take 1 game, if any. And that's if we don't answer their cheese correctly. But I feel like in a normal game situation where both comps are like remotely meta, we'll just take the lead. And we play the meta better than them. And the only team we view as like a team that can play meta as well as us would be Abyss. And they're the only ones that we would be respecting in terms of meta versus meta matchup.
Okay. I guess my prediction for this one is, I'm probably gonna give this one. This one's tough. I might give this one. I'm gonna go against you there, Wilaris, and I'm gonna actually lock this one in 2-1 to Atletico. So, you guys have already played Atletico during the season. I believe they were the only team that actually took a game off of you guys, if I'm right.
Yes.
And
yes.
I feel like perhaps, and again, this is kind of something which I've struggled with the whole split, because I feel like Outlaws hasn't really shown a lot, whereas I guess on the other side, Atletico has shown a lot. Or like Atletico has shown heaps and heaps and things, like almost like too many, well not too many things, but like just a ridiculous number of things. So I'm gonna hand this one over at Atletico. I feel like they're gonna be able to have multiple different strategies prepared, which are gonna be unusual for multiple games, and I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that you guys are going to be playing new things, and yeah, I guess that's just going to be my prediction. Because I don't know, maybe you guys are really good at the things which you haven't shown on stage yet, and which you guys have been, I guess, practicing with, because you guys are just picking the same thing. I don't really blame you guys for it, but I guess I'm going to base my prediction a little bit on that. All right, Nick, what's yours?
Outlaws 2-1. For the same, I'm echoing the sentiment of Wilaris, where Atletico may be able to take a game with and I think they will, when it comes to even just adapting to the way that Atletico play, or they pull out, Bedoink pulls out some retarded champion, and then they cheese, and then you guys win. But overall, I think that Outlaws they play a style that I think is better to play. I think that they've got a lot better players pretty much across the board, especially Curse in that top lane. And I think that Outlaws' macro play is far better than Atletico's. And I just think that this patch definitely favors a more methodical, a more cerebral, and more teamfight focused way of playing the game. And that is pretty much the way that Outlaws plays. Like, you play around a lot about team fighting and a lot about snowballing through the team fights, and that's essentially the meta at the moment. So if it was a different meta, I might have to give it to Atletico, but with the current champions that are strong, I think it's going to be a 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 2-0 for Outlaws.
All right, okay. I guess I'm the only one with the confidence in Atletico. That's okay. No, I mean, I could definitely see how it could, like, why you guys are thinking. I just think that there's going to be a lot of strategies prepared from the Atletico line. Like, Bedoink can play like 1,500 different weird champions. 5-8 can. That Corky is probably a flex pick, maybe.
Yeah, it's seen play in top, I think, in LCK, maybe.
Yeah.
I think.
So,
yeah.
I feel like they will throw some things at you, and maybe some of it sticks. But again, it is definitely a hard one to call. I feel like the next series is probably a little bit easier one for me to call.
What, really?
Do you reckon? You're
I mean,
afraid.
Genesis.
You're afraid. You're
I'm afraid.
you're hyping up Genesis now. I get it.
I've been hyping up Genesis since the start. You can't say that it's just a sudden thing. I think the Genesis are actually they're a very scary team to face because their solo laners are very aggressive. Is the big thing. They're just a very aggressive team, and aggressive teams are scary to play against as a coaching perspective. But anyway, I guess I'll start off with my prediction with the game.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll say that we'll win 2-1. I think that, echoing the sentiment that I said before, when it comes to, I think we play this meta better than Genesis does. I think that our team fighting is significantly better than Genesis's, and I think the meta is very much focused around team fighting. The thing that is scary about Genesis is obviously Harry, but they've got quite a few players that can just like pop off, and that's why I'm scared from a Genesis in an individual's part. But at least if Genesis are playing the way that I expect them to play, I think that we'll be able to win. But I do recognize that Genesis are a very strong team, and I think that we'll be able to take a game. And I think it will be 3 very close games, to be honest. I would be surprised if one team was able to 2-0 it, to be honest.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident Abyss is going to win, whether it's 2-0 or 2-1. I feel like they have, like, when I compare the roles, I feel like they have the better top lane matchup. I feel like they have the better jungle matchup. Mid is like even, and then I feel like the bot lane I'd have to put in Abyss's favor. Perhaps not as big as I think the top jungle matchup is. So I think that across the map, I think Abyss has advantages, and Frey's team fighting is really solid. So I think that the only way which I really see Legacy winning this game is if other players really step up from their regular split performance. Perhaps we see Otterfins continuing to, I guess, play a more solid role for his team, or Harry carrying really hard. And maybe Harry can push really hard and carry a single game, but in terms of multiple games, I just don't see it happening. So I'm gonna give it 2-1. I think Harry can potentially have a hard carry on one game. And I guess Soul Strikes will probably have a pretty big influence on this team too, between the games. I guess having a more stable coaching role. So I'm gonna give this one to Abyss 2-1 as well. Wilaris, what are you thinking?
I think Abyss will win either 2-1 or 2-0, right? And the only reason the only way win conditions Legacy really have, I feel, are Soul Strikes being a total genius, right? It's either that or Harry popping off, and those are the only 2 situations I see happening, because I think Swaith will match, if not beat, Babip in the jungle matchup, and those are the main two roles that we have to look out for. Would be like Frey versus Harry, and even though Harry's incredibly aggressive, Frey isn't the type to just like lose out cause of it, and I don't think he'd drop anything cause of how aggressive Harry is. He wouldn't freak out or anything. Nothing surprising would happen. It'd just be Frey would match Harry, Swaith would match Babip, and every other role will just be a loss in comparison. Babip and Abyss will just win in the top lane and the bot lane. When versing Abyss, it seemed like their bot lane was really confident. So the way they're really proactive in their movements, they don't ever sit back and let my bot lane just punish. It's just they're fighting back all the time. And I don't see that as much out of Legacy. I don't think Legacy have as many win conditions in general. Like I said, it's just really in game. It'll just be Harry doing something like insane. Outside of that, yeah, it's just going to be Abyss taking over the whole game. And I also think, in terms of shot calling, Abyss as a team answer a lot better. They answer their shot call a lot better, and they are a lot more proactive. They do things earlier than Legacy would. They delay and kind of question, it seems. It could. I know that Babip's obviously grown a lot as a shot caller, but they haven't had time. Like, he hasn't had that much time on his team because of going away, and it seems like Swaith with his team, because I'm predicting Swaith as a shot caller, they've molded a lot better than Legacy has to Babip.
Alright. Well, I guess that sums up the predictions for the semi-finals. I guess the final question I have before we can round out the show is either, or are any of the OCS teams promoting to OPL? It's a pretty loaded question, I guess, but yeah, I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I mean, I feel like Regicide. Okay, so I think Tainted Minds are the weaker team out of the two, right? Or out of, if we have to look at it now, because Abyss has to versus Regicide. I think Abyss will beat Regicide, the OPL roster. The OPL roster will beat Regicide because it's is it still 6th versus 7th for
Yes,
whoever is the yeah. So I think Abyss will beat Regicide because they can match in terms of individual skill, but they're just better macro, right? So if Regicide were to beat Abyss, it'll be pretty like. It'd have to be like a complete stomp early, and then they'll just push the lead to a win. But outside of that, Abyss will just match, if not win. So I'm going to take the prediction where it's Regicide versus Tainted Minds, and I think Tainted Minds are a better macro team than Regicide, but Regicide are just so much better in terms of individual skill that they'll just win through the lane, and macro won't even be relevant at that point because of how far ahead Regicide are. So I think Regicide are the stronger team than Tainted Minds, and I think both Abyss and Outlaws match, if not play a better macro game than Tainted Minds, right? And in terms of individual skill, I think we can, we and Nick's team can both take on Tainted Minds in terms of mechanics. But when it comes to Regicide, it's a bit more of a wild card where they might like out micro us so hard that they just like flush both games without our macro being a thing. But I think only one of the two teams, or one of the 4 teams in OCS, I think only one of the OCS teams will promote, and if it does, it will be through Tainted Minds.
I agree. When it comes to I don't expect OCS teams to qualify in at all, to be honest. I think whoever finishes first in OCS is going to have a much better shot at qualifying because of how the system how the tournament or relegation tournament system wins. In regards to like Outlaws / Abyss / Legacy, I don't really think Atletico will beat you guys. And if they do, I don't really think they'll be able to take on TM. But anyway, I think when it comes down to it, I would say it's more TM favored than. I would say it's an upset if an OCS team was able to take down an OPL team. Although TM have looked pretty bad in their OPL games. I think that their experience, especially T-Gun, and I think that Only is a very strong jungler. I think that just overall, unless TM like implodes internally completely and they like none of them care anymore, as long as I think they're putting in all their effort and they're trying to win, I think there's going to be favor towards them, and I would classify as an upset, unless us like Outlaws, Abyss, or Legacy improve by a margin. I think if at the moment, if we were to play the relegation tournament right now, I would say that Tainted Minds would probably win like 70 to 80%. But the way that this sort of thing works is that if TM continue the way the OPL season's going, they're going to be losing motivation because they're losing their games. However, the teams that are winning, they're going to be gaining motivation. Their morale's going to be better, and they'll be improving, whilst the other team is probably going to be getting worse. So I think when it comes down to the overall thing, the skill discrepancy between the OCS and OPL team is not going to be as large as it is right now. But at least at the moment, I do think that the OCS teams have quite a lot to work on when it comes to the way that they play the game and that sort of stuff. And usually, whenever it comes down to it, like the OCS team has to brute force the OPL team. And unless the OCS teams can get better, I think the OCS teams need to get better, like as a team at the moment, to be able to take on the OPL team. Yeah, TM. I don't really think that any OCS team has a chance against Regicide, to be honest, assuming they keep onto their roster.
All right. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think if any team does do it, it's going to be through TM. But again, those players are perhaps struggling in the OPL, but you put like T-Gun, Only, I guess like Prelus, Praydith. Sorry, Prelus. You're still the jungler for Syndicate, man. I apologize. Yeah, I guess you put those players into the OCS and suddenly they are like very top tier players. So yeah, I'd have to say I think it'll be an upset. I think this is the first time ever in OPL history that an 8th place team could really be looking at defending this spot. But yeah, like Nick said, it really depends how they feel. Because I mean, like, I guess your goal as a player, Wilaris, and I guess as a coach, Nick, is you guys want to qualify for OPL, right?
Definitely.
But I feel like on the other side, if you ask T-Gun, like, hey T-Gun, what's your goals for the split? I would really like to defend my spot in the relegation tournament. I would love that. I don't even want to finish in 6th. I want to defend my spot in the relegation tournament. So I guess, yeah, I guess that is a really good point to take into consideration. All right. Well, I guess, unless any of you guys have anything else you want to say on that question, should I look to round out the show?
Alright.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Sounds
while I do my round out, if anybody does have a final question for Wilaris in the Twitch chat up there, then you guys can throw that in now. If it has to be reasonable, don't ask him anything stupid. If you ask him something stupid, I'm just gonna ignore. I might laugh at it, but I'm not gonna ask it to him. So, yeah. In terms of rounding out the show, thank you guys again for watching the first stream. It does appear to have gone reasonably well. If you do have any feedback or anything, feel free to shove it in. Please don't forget to follow the channel and subscribe to the YouTube as well, because we need 100 YouTube subscribers for the channel name. We're on like 88. We need 100. All right. So you guys can help us today. There are 14 viewers, and if none of you guys are subscribed to us, then we can make it. And yeah, and I guess if you guys really love the show, then there is always the donate button, which I've put in below as well. So I don't think we had any questions. I don't know.
No questions?
So unless I missed one. I don't think I missed one, did I, Nick?
No, you didn't.
Awesome. Alright, I guess we can look around at the show. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to follow, subscribe on the YouTube, which I may have mentioned like 15 times already. But yeah, I guess we'll round that one out there.